Good afternoon, good evening, good night for everyone watching all across the English-speaking world. It is I, Mike Martins, your housing guru discussion expert. Anyways, guys, the reason why a lot of people are asking me, why do you care about the housing market in Australia? Why the hell do you care about the housing market in New Zealand, UK, and all those places? Well, you're starting to see other cities following what other cities are doing. And this is a global problem. It is happening in every English-speaking country in the world. And to truly understand this problem, or to truly understand the global phenomena, you need to know what's happening in every English-speaking country. Countries from the UK, Canada, United States, also in Australia and New Zealand, minus South Africa, that is. Jamaica is also having a massive problem with their housing and business and infrastructure issues, because infrastructure companies building Jamaica's infrastructure are not Jamaican. So there's a big problem happening, and these countries are pretty much selling out to the highest bidders. They're selling out our grandkids, great-grandkids' future, and a lot of these people are parking their wealth in our English-speaking countries. And it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem. But why? Because it's a free market. And back in the day, a lot of people would just open a nail salon or an antique furniture store and then layer money. Nowadays, they want to park it in real estate because it's so easy to get money in, and too many corrupt politicians, and there's too much happening in the underlying things. So until you could see a global aspect of what's happening, then you could understand what is coming soon to your town or your region or city or where you're living in. Coming soon. So anyways, so this is what's happening now in the GTA. We covered in the last video what's happening in BC, where they're talking about banning foreign home ownership, but that's unheard of, because last November in 2017 we were talking about Phil Tyford and he's a housing commissioner there in New Zealand, and they got basically voted into power to protect the New Zealand proper from stopping foreigners from buying. Right? And the housing market there has cooled off big time. And a lot of for sale signs going up, and a lot of people walking away from pre-builts. And that's what's happening right now in New Zealand. If you go to Auckland, you'll see that problem. So let's go. Greater Toronto Area realtors can now publish home sales data online. What does this mean? This is actually a big deal, people. And this is coming to a city near you.
Canada's top court is declining to hear the Toronto Real Estate Board's appeal over publicly releasing historical home sales data. This is a long fight that's been waged here. For the reaction to this, we now go to John Passalis, president of Velocity. Thanks for joining us, John.
Good to be here.
This is a decision years and years in the making, with the Supreme Court now saying we don't want to hear the case. My understanding is that this information, this historical sales data, what did the other homes in your neighborhood sell for, what did they sell for before, should become open game for your industry.
Yeah, very soon. I mean, probably within the next 60 days or so. I mean, we expect maybe TREB might try to delay it a little bit further, but I mean, at this point, there's probably not many avenues left for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's been argued before the Competition Commissioner. It went to the Federal Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court doesn't want to hear the story. Yeah. I think, too, of the implications. We have a national audience watching us. I know this was specifically about the Toronto Real Estate Board and the fight that they've been waging for several years now. But there's some thinking there that it could be pretty much precedent across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. It might affect other boards across Canada, and that's why it was kind of very widely watched, because the Competition Board decided to focus on the Toronto Real Estate Boards to start. And it was an important case. You know, should consumers get access to sold data so they can do their own research online? And obviously the Bureau thought that there was a case for that, and TREB disagreed.
Now, there's caveats here in terms of this information. When I've been following the case, the Competition Bureau was arguing not that it just gets posted on Google, a simple search, that I could sign up to, say, your website, and you could provide me this information without having to come to my house and actually hand me a printed piece of paper.
Yeah, that's really important. So the data isn't becoming public. I mean, they're not putting it on some open data platform that anyone can download. It's really about, should TREB be allowed to give this data to their own members, to their brokers, and are their brokers allowed to post the data on their websites? So it's certainly information that's going to be on websites of real estate brokerages.
And is that really, I mean, in the end, I know Trev fought it right to the end, that much different? Say, for argument's sake, you become my broker.
Yeah.
You would come to my house with a bunch of printouts to show me what homes had recently sold for in my neighborhood, how many days they were on the market, and for that we'd inform ourselves and say, here's what we should list for, or here's rather what we should bid. It just seems to be, we're just taking that relationship and putting it on the internet.
I mean, that's exactly the crux of this case and what the Competition Bureau's been arguing, that, you know, TREB members are doing this day to day in their business. They're doing it via email, they're doing it in person, they're giving sold data out. So it's not private information because they are giving out in their day-to-day practice. So should companies be allowed to display it online? And that's exactly the point. And I'm glad we're one step closer to giving people more access to information. I mean, the more information people have, the better decisions that they can make. And
Yep. Canada's behind when it comes to certain things. Other countries, a lot of this stuff is public, like in the United States, it's all public. And when a house gets pulled off the market and relisted on the market in the US, you see all that history. So you know it's been pulled off and the price has been dropped. In Canada, you can't see those things, so you really don't know. So they're gumshoeing the numbers in a way where when they start taking comparables of properties, you're not too sure how many times that thing was pulled off the market and how many times it dropped. So when you're making a calculated decision and buying one of the most important assets in your lifetime is a house, it's the most important asset you'll ever buy. So you got to make sure you got these numbers behind you. So let's go ahead and read a bit what it says here. Toronto Supreme Court of Canada refuses to hear on appeal from the country's largest real estate board, enables its members, real estate agents, to publish home sales data on their websites. The fight centered around a 2011 application from the Competition Bureau, a federal watchdog designed to protect consumers by investigating business policies and mergers, challenging the Toronto Real Estate Board's TREB policy preventing the publication of such information on password-protected websites, arguing the policy restricts competition and digital innovation. TREB fought back, claiming that the publication of such data was a privacy and copyright concern. What? But the Competition Tribunal and later the Federal Court of Appeal sided with the Bureau instead. So TREB took its battle to the Supreme Court. Top Court's refusal to hear the case is significant because it was likely TREB's last chance to prevent the publication of data. It is a sign of hope for realtors in regions across the country who want to open up data to their clients, real estate experts said. A lot of these local real estate boards were waiting to see what happened with this decision, said John Andrew, real estate professor at Queen's University. That's going to spread to other boards across Canada. They are no longer going to try to resist this kind of demand from their own members who would like to release this kind of information and other kinds. So he's anticipating a flood of realtors will race to post data in 60 days when the required under the Competition Tribunal order that will allow buyers and sellers to more easily educate themselves on how to price homes and negotiate, keeping them from relying on agents to send them sales information. So what's happening here is they want you to be in the dark as much as possible because they want you to depend on real estate agents or they want you to depend on leave it in their hands. Now, what you're going to see a ton of lawsuits flying around. There's a ton of lawsuits flying around right now in Toronto. A ton of lawsuits flying around in Sydney right now. Because they were told it's going to keep going up. They were told if you don't buy now, you'll never afford to buy. But everything is falling around us. Like you know how when a wave starts to collapse, it starts to come off the edge and then it starts collapsing in the middle? That's what's happening right now around the English-speaking world. It's falling apart in Sydney. It's falling apart in Melbourne. Is it Melbourne or Melbourne? Melbourne. And it's falling apart in Auckland right now. It's falling apart in the UK. For the last 13, 14 months, UK has been on declines. London especially. It's been on a decline in Toronto, 40-plus points. A decline in Vancouver. No one's looking at the empty house issue. That's the reason. You're forcing prices to go up and leaving empty homes. It makes it harder for other people to find inventory, and they keep putting inventory on the market, and then this is going to suppress the actual values, and when people don't know and they're in the dark, Yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, the only person I could trust if I had hair, I don't have any hair, but if I had hair, I would, the only person I could give my faith into is my barber. Here's $20, please cut my hair right, please, because I can't do it myself. A lot of people have done that when it comes to buying a car, when it comes to buying a home, when it comes to buying anything. They don't get informed properly and they don't do the work themselves. This is going to help people understand what's happening in the market, understand when making this big decision, because you're playing with people's futures is what's happening. Interim Competition Bureau Commissioners Matthew Boswell refused to speculate on whether the country will see a EU flight allow publication outside the vows, but said he knows real estate boards across the country were watching the case. This is their opportunity to look at their policies and procedures and make sure they are in compliance and with the Competition Act, that they are not abusing their dominant position in their respective markets. Tribe was found to have done this in this case. So they've been going against their own, you know what I'm saying, or against policies, right, and regulations. He told the Canadian Press. Boswell said he considered Supreme Court's choice not to hear the case as a decisive victory for the competition, innovation, and for consumers. So it's a win for us. Tribe Chief Executive Officer Daniel DeMichael said he respects the decision and noted that the board will be studying the required next steps to ensure such information will be protected in compliance with the tribunal order, which he noted will come into effect in 60 days if it is not modified. The Canadian Real Estate Association, which represents 125,000 realtors across the country, was also reviewing the order to determine its potential impacts. Neither immediately said whether they are looking for a way to change the order. So it looks like it's a win for the good guys or for the common person. The common person is so left in the dark nowadays that it's disgusting. You know, you need the right to understand different comparables. You need the right to know if a house has been pulled off the market 40 times and relisted. In the U.S., you can get all that information at a tip of a finger. You don't even have to take it to court and fight, because people damn sure need to know what they're getting into, especially when they're buying the most expensive asset they'll ever buy in their life. Anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It's an interesting one. This is a very interesting story. Comment below and let me know what the procedures are in your country.